Hey y'all, and welcome to another episode of the Bookish Hottie YouTube channel. And I am Nakara, and I am your bookish friend. Here not to judge, but also just a tad bit. Just joking. There's a lot of that going around. Okay, so before I start, there is a lot going on in the world. And this man has been president for 4 weeks. So whatever way you need to have resistance, and resistance can look like a whole host of different things. Resistance for your radical self-care and self-worth. Radical resistance and buying every single banned book and filling up every free little library, or hosting your own banned book salon. Whatever you need to do in order to, one, radically take care of yourself, because as the book Rest is Resistance says, we are not machines, we are humans, and so we need to recharge and fill our well. So however you fill your well, do it. Please do it. Right now I'm filling my well with this, my Bookish podcast over at But Make It Books, where we are talking to authors and other fellow book influencers, hosting in community. I'm actually, if you're in the Baltimore area, I'm hosting an Oathbound midnight release party over at Charm City Books in Baltimore, right here in the city. We're gonna have a DJ, Ty Alexander, who is amazing. She's gonna come through. We're gonna have comfy snacks, bring your comfy clothes, wear your purple or not, whatever makes you feel good, and just be in community. The cost of ticket costs for the refreshments as well as the book itself. And I hope to see you there. It will be on March 3rd. So definitely check out my Instagram, charmcitybooks.com, bookishlyhealing.com. All of our stuff is there. And then also, I forgot to say what else I'm doing to fill up my well is I am in class to be a Pilates and reformer instructor, which I've always said I wanted to do some type of fitness class and be like a instructor for it. I just always said I was never going to have the time. I don't have the time. But time is one of the most precious resources we have on this earth, because it is something that we can never get back. So I am baking into me and relying into me. And the other thing I'm doing, which is health-wise but vanity-wise, so if you notice my talking might be a little bit off, I'm learning to talk with angel aligners, which is essentially Invisalign. And they're not in right now, but the brackets are there, so my speech might be a little off for the first couple of these YouTubes. But I'm vain, and I'm getting married this year, so I want my teeth to be like snatched. So we snatching the body, we snatching the mind, we snatching the teeth. We are snatching, okay? Because you will not break my soul, okay? You won't break my soul. That's another thing I'm doing right now too, is having dance parties in my house at the end of the workday to be happy. So that's another thing I'm doing to find some peace. Okay, enough of that. Let me sip my elixir, which is my coffee. Okay, so this episode is going to be all about my January recaps, all my reads. I am flying through books right now, and I really believe it's about trying to escape in other people's worlds, but they've also been really real, because it's kind of like the world we're living in. So yay! Anyway, so this in January I read, let's see, I'm also categorizing in my book journal, because I told myself I was going to start writing down my reviews versus just having them online or on socials or Substack or whatever, I want to get back in the habit of like writing with my hands. So, and making sure my handwriting doesn't go to. So this last month in January, I read 6 books. My favorite 2 books of that month were Onyx Storm and Harlem Rhapsody. But that's not true because honestly, every book I read definitely was up there and was one of my favorites. But Onyx Storm and Harlem Rhapsody were definitely my top 2. This month, I am trying to go through quite a bit of books. And we'll get into that next episode, actually. So let's start with the first book I read. So the first book I read was Davenport's More Than This, which is in a series called The Davenports, which is actually historical fiction, YA romance. So this book kind of goes through, it goes through 4 young women you follow who are all trying to make their dreams work in different ways. This is also based on the true story of a Black family in the Midwest that actually had a carriage company, and that person escaped slavery, became free, created this carriage company, and that's what this book is loosely based off of. It's set in like the 1920s, 30s, right when we're getting into the start of the Model T, Ford Model T cars are now, automobiles are on the road, how we're switching from carriage to automobile. And Helen, who I connect with so much, Helen Davenport is my girl. She is someone who isn't necessarily trying to get married. She knows she has to, but she really wants to be a part of her family's company with her brother John, and really figure out how to be an enterprising woman and not always have to be in the society and the galas and all of those things. She's not trying to do that. Ruby Tremaine is another character. She's the best friend to the Davenport sisters. She is someone who her father's actually ran to be the mayor of Chicago, the first Black mayor of Chicago, and going through what that means when your father is self-made and put their own finances into this business, and what that did to her, and her trying to find love, and she was secretly in love with John, probably not so secret. We're here. Anne-Marie is another one of the characters. She is one of the young ladies who works in the Davenport household. Her mom escaped from St. Lucia to come to America to meet her father. However, her father is white, and we have everything that goes into that. So my rating of this book, end of the series, is I like it, right? But for me, I think we also need to get out of, before I start, I think we need to get out of rating books like a 3.5 star book is still a good book, or a 3-star book. To me, in my rating system, is a good book. To me, when a book is bad, I will never rate it to you. It's 1, 2, or 0 stars. So for me, that's where I rate things. 3, 3.5 is more so like, for me, it wasn't something like, it's something I would pick up again. I would pick something up from this series again. I will continue to read this series. But for me, why I rated 3.5 is definitely YA. And I read a lot of YA. I love young adult books. I think it opens up a lot of things for me, keeps me young, keeps me fresh, keeps me hip with the kids. But this is something where it definitely reads very young adult. I think it's good for like maybe like a 13, 14-year-old type of situation. And that branch of reading, definitely agree to disagree with me below in the comments. I don't care. I'm here. I like to hear people's opinions as long as you keep it respectful. Okay, we can agree to disagree as long as you keep it keep it respectful. I love the premise of the book. I love the premise of the story. I wish the chapters and stories were a little longer. I understand it's a series, but I think sometimes the chapters because it switches it from 4 different point of views. So I think I would like the POVs to be just a little longer. Because right when I'm in it, I'm like, hey, we going to another person? And I get it, we have to do it for story's sake, but I just think it's a little rush. I think the series is still very solid. It's a solid book. I would definitely recommend to pick it up. But for me, it's 3.5. In the Davenports, the first book in the series also is a 3.5. I would definitely liken it to your Bridgertons. And they are making it into a series. So I'm excited to see it on screen. I think it's going to translate way better on screen for me, where I'm going to be all up in it. But it's good. It's solid. It's a solid book. I definitely say pick it up. The next book I read was Black Boy Smile, A Memoir in Moments by D. Watkins. Hey to the home team. What's up, Baltimore? I appreciate D because this... Whew, let me breathe. This book was truly one of my favorite memoirs I've read in a really long time. I think it is required reading for everyone. I think that this book was vulnerable. It was witty. It was honest. It was raw. Trigger warning, it does deal with sexual assault. But I think D is someone who, when you meet him, he is just someone who is just authentically himself. He also talks about in this book, not only him growing up in Baltimore City and him being in the drug trade, and then him also finding in love with his wife and then becoming a girl dad, is something we don't see or hear a lot. And his openness to vulnerability, to me, is what is needed and what is missing. I also loved him opening up in his story, especially about being in the white gaze and having to validate his life and his life that he lived in Baltimore when he was in school, and his short stories. And they're like, I don't know which Baltimore you're talking about. Da 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 da. But as we know by W.E.B. Du Bois, which he super ate with this one, double consciousness is a real thing. Living behind the veil is also a real thing. We live in a country where Black people often have to live in a state where we are studying our own culture, but we also have to know everything about whiteness in order to survive. And I think that is in living in a double consciousness and living behind the veil is something that we deal with often and frequently, that becomes second nature. That sometimes when you bring up things that happen in your own life and you're like, yeah, this definitely happened, especially as a Black person, you're like, and then a white person tries to invalidate that experience. You're like, what are you talking about? And then you always have to remember we live in two different worlds, often and frequently, even if we inhabit the same space. And this was just a 5-star read for me. This was super beautiful, documenting from childhood to young adult, adolescence, to adulthood, to now him being a father and a husband. And yeah, he did his big one with that. So 5 stars, no notes. The other book I read is, shout out to my girl Taylor. We have a group chat where we talk about fantasy reads. So I have two group chats. I have a Black Girl Magic group chat where we talk about only in all black fantasy. Only black fantasy. And then I have another group chat where we mix it up. So we talk about other fantasy books, white, black, Latino, and everything in between. AAPI, all of that is in this fantasy group chat. We do not discriminate in that group chat. And so this book came up. It was brought to my attention. I'm going to be honest. I held off because sometimes I don't really like to join onto the hype train. You know, I'm like, okay, everybody keeps talking about this is good, blah, blah, blah. Is it that good? Da, 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 da. It is. It is. Rebecca, you did your big one with this one. I didn't think I was going to like it. And I loved it. It is gritty. It is steamy. It's adventure packed. It has all the elements of Throne of Glass that I love. The adventure, the thrill, but all of the steaminess I love from A Court of Roses and Thorns. They're both, and I'm not here to pit the girlies against each other because they're both good and they're both very different. One is set, Fourth Wing is set in a war college. So I definitely think it's like more of your Divergent, more of that type of energy. So you're set at this war college with dragons, and you have Violet Sorrengail, who wanted to be a scribe, wanted to be studious just like her father. Her mama was like, you thought you're going to this quadrant, you're going to be in the writer's quadrant. And she sees this man named Zayden, and she knows her mom put his father to death because he was a part of the rebels who went against the government, and she's trying to figure out how to survive. And she's like, whether I'm gonna survive this quadrant or this man gonna kill me. So for those who love enemies to lovers, this is for you. If you love dragons, where the dragons at, y'all? Because I miss them dragons because, we had them thrones, we had them dragons, and we can't wait. So if you love dragons and adventure and grit and passion, and I will say it is not pure like romance. It's in there, but it's really more adventure. This series, it be there. Also, they are making this into a show on Amazon Prime, which I love because I love Rings of Power. And I just think that Amazon, HBO Max, and Apple, I think right now are the only ones who can do this type of book and give it justice. So they're bringing this to Amazon. Michael B. Jordan will be the executive producer, so I'm excited about this as well. The next book I read, which was an advanced reader copy, or as those in the book community say, ARC. I love this book. It was called Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murray. She's the same person who co-wrote Personal Librarian, so she's definitely more in your historical fiction. So this is all about the midwife of the Harlem Renaissance, which is Jessie Redmond Faust. And I was reading this book and I was like, I know that person. Wait, who's this person? I didn't even know about this person, including Jessie herself. And she was the editor-in-chief of the NAACP's newspaper magazine. And I think sometimes when we think about the Harlem Renaissance, what it provided, what it gave, when we think about that era, we always think about Booker T, we always think about W.E.B. Du Bois, we think about Langston, we think about Nora, Zora Neale Hurston, we think about all of these folks, Conti, Collins, all these people. But what we don't realize is that there was someone behind the scenes sometimes. And I definitely believe we don't know a lot about her. And I think it's because of her alleged, and I don't know how alleged it was because it seemed like the streets was talking, her affair with W.E.B. Du Bois, her leaving the way she did, as well as I think a lot of men in that era, even now, push a lot of women back who are the guiding light and forces to this movement, our creative movements, our political movements, our civic movements, anything like that. And I thank Victoria, because without this book, I would never heard of Jessie. I also think I believe myself to be well learned in terms of Black history, and I had no idea. So I finished this book in 2 days. It's amazing. Go pick it up. I was screaming, I was squealing, I was doing all the things, and I was like, Jessie, girl! And you gonna see why. Okay, you gonna see why. And I also love in books when the mom be clocking things before everybody else, and I love a good mom clock. I love a good mom clocking. Okay, clockage. Okay, the next book I read last month was Iron Flame. I kept in the Fourth Wing family, and this was a 4.5 read for me. Still good, but I think there are points of the book that it dragged on. Like certain scenes could have been more compact, I think, but it was very good. Another thrilling, steamy, sexy, adventure-filled situation. But it was like overall very good, super solid in this series. I definitely cried at the end. I hate when books make me cry, and I also love when books make me cry, because how did you get all this emotion out of me? So I definitely cried at the end, but it was good. It was really, really good. Highly recommend. So right when I finished Iron Flame, I was in Boston. I remember I told y'all I was in Boston for I was in the White People Atlanta, and I picked up Onyx Storm, and I was instantly hooked. I finished that book in like 3 days. It felt like back in the day when you used to go get can't stand that woman because J.K. Rowling crushed my dreams. But when you had Harry Potter books and you went to the midnight release, that's what it felt like. That's the energy. I couldn't put it down. And I was whiplashed. Rebecca, girl, what did you do to me? The banter was top tier. The character development was top tier. Like, everything was making sense about why we were doing the things once you got to the end. And I think for me, because I didn't have to wait a year after Iron Flame, well, I didn't have to wait a year after reading Iron Flame to get to Onyx Storm. Everything made sense to me, and everything flowed. And as they say on the island of Zinalith, if that's how you say it, thank you. Truly, thank you for your gift. It was amazing. AF1, love Roderick. Like, it's given, maybe I need 1 or 3. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I need a few. Maybe I need a few in the arsenal. Maybe I need to keep Roderick, Zayden. There's a few, okay? The men's are minning, okay? The men's are minning. So that's what I read in January. Let me know if you read any of these books. If you're like, nah, girl, those were not the reads that I got from me. Let me know if you're like not feeling any of those, and let me know why, because I want to know. I like to know. We can have friendly debate. We can always have friendly debate. I think that's always what's missing sometimes in the book community, is that you can have friendly debate about why you didn't like a book, but it's not going to be the end of the world. I just always say, even if you don't, personally, I don't like to review books that I deeply do not like, unless they are like an art, so I have to review. But if it's a book where I'm like, no. I try not to just review it, to be honest, because I just won't recommend it. I just won't platform it. You won't hear me talk about it. Now, someone asks me if I read said book and they're like, what were your thoughts? I will give them to them. But I'm not trying to do like toxic over positive nature. It's more so like, I don't really have it in me to be negative or spend my time reviewing something that I didn't appreciate. Because it's not in me. Only if I got, like I said, advanced copy or someone asks me about it. Now, I will say this. As I go on into this YouTube bookish journey, and if it's a book I said I was going to read, and I told you I was going to read it, I'll review. But I'll also be kind. You don't have to be super mean in order to review. I don't agree with that. But that could change. I'm a human, so things change and develop. But that's what I'm reading right now. This month I read both Legend Born, Bloodmark. I read when Javi dumped Mary. And I'm on Isaac's song. So definitely stay tuned. I'm going to try to review those separately and not try to do like a big recap. Just time is getting away from me, and I'm just doing a lot personally. As you can tell with the Pilates and performer training and revamping some of my websites and stuff like that. So I'm going to try to be better. Hold me accountable. But hold me with care, okay? Be gentle with your girl. The world is burning, y'all. But with all of that, be easy, stay blessed, and be good.